All right, let's take a minute to talk about what's really going on in law enforcement right now, what a lot of departments and agencies are having trouble with, and that is police recruitment. Agencies are understaffed. They're under budget, of course, they're always under budget, but they're understaffed and they're having a hard time bringing in new people because the law enforcement profession just does not look sexy or appealing right now. Media, the tempo and the emotional just standard across the nation right now is just bad for law enforcement. It's bad for recruiting, and people have fled. We're in part of that, great resignation, so it's coined right now. That applies to law enforcement. Law enforcement are leaving, and they're leaving for a lot of reasons, but research has shown that they're leaving for primarily two reasons. One, they don't feel supported by their department or their agency. And two, they feel that they have bad management or a bad direct supervisor, which is very common for almost every profession, not just law enforcement, for someone to leave. But you got to look at those things right now to reflect. I have a bunch of sheriffs and a bunch of local police chiefs in my area asking, hey, we'll do anything. What do we need to do to improve recruiting? And I tell them all the same thing that I'm telling you right now. If you're not taking exit interviews, honest exit interviews, and reviewing them, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because people, when they're leaving, tend to be a little bit more honest. I'm not saying they're completely honest, but tend to be a little bit more honest when they're leaving and they already have another job lined up, or they're no longer going to be working directly under a person that, say, is just ruining their professional career or life. So make sure you're conducting exit interviews. But let's get to the real problem. How do I recruit new officers that's going to stay around, that's going to do what they need to do, and then are not going to get the agency or themselves in trouble? Well, if it's like anything else, you're selling something. And let's be honest, you are selling something. You're selling your agency and you're selling the profession. And the law enforcement profession as a whole is an honorable and respectable profession. But they can't see that right now. And they're not seeing that camaraderie that goes on within departments. And honestly, the media is kind of spinning that camaraderie as a bad thing because it's all about the blue. Don't worry about that right now. What you need to focus on is good mental awareness of the profession, how respectable it is and how rewarding it is to be a law enforcement officer. I don't care if you're a uniformed patrol officer, a detective, a special agent, an investigator, it doesn't matter. All those positions are super rewarding, and they all bring something to our country, and they all are needed every single day. So let's take a look at it. How are we going to recruit good officers? What do we need to do? So first thing is we need to look at ourselves, because if we're not looking at ourselves and we're not realizing where we're deficient, and every department and every agency across the nation has deficiencies for their staff members, whether they're sworn officers or not, has deficiencies in their management, definitely have deficiencies in their training, because that's the first thing to go when times are tough or there's no money in the budget or no time to do anything because you're so short-staffed. Everyone's working an extra 30 hours of overtime just to cover the mandatory shifts. So you need to look at yourself. And once you look at yourself, you can start fixing those issues, because if you bring in all these new great people, you're just going to lose them again, and you're going to be in a horrible, horrible, repetitive cycle that you just can't break out of. Jumping back, what do we need to do? How are we going to find these good recruits for law enforcement? This is not rocket science. You do not have to jump through and look at all these different sales tactics and everything like that. Like, oh, we need to offer a bonus, and we need to offer a take-home car program, and all those things are nice and they're great. Make sure they're within state and local guidelines, of course, but you do not need to sit there and punch that down people's throats. Yeah, if you're trying to pull over transfer officers and everything like that, but once again, when you pull over a transfer officer, you still got to retrain them on your agency policies. You still got to retrain them on your department's dynamic. And let's stick with that word, your department's dynamic. And it can be difficult. it can be difficult because people want to take what was good about their old department and then bring that over, but they usually meet resistance because the last thing you want to hear from a new guy is, or a new gal, is, oh, the way I used to do it or the way my old department is. And then you get these older officers, I should say. When I say older, I mean just who have more time and more seniority. Like, well, if you like that, then go back to your last department. So you wind up having these negative officers that are just impacting your department in ways that you just can't figure out, because one, you're upstairs, or you're removed in the management position from having direct contact with your officers or your first line supervisors, or whatever it is. And we'll discuss here in a minute that the number one position you should be monitoring is your FTO program, your field training officer program, because that is what's going to really make your officers stay, and that's really what's going to make your officers succeed in your department and in your community, and really be the best officers to serve the community, which is ultimately our goal, is to serve those in our community and those that we have sworn to protect. So keep that in mind. We'll jump back to the FTO here in a second. Now, not rocket science. I've said that already. How are we going to bring in new people? This isn't an overnight fix. And if you think it is, you got a rude thing coming, because you're trying to bring in people fast, which means you're curbing the screening process. You're going to get bad officers. You're going to get your city and your department sued, is what you're going to do. Or worse, you're going to bring in an officer that's going to get someone hurt that doesn't need to be hurt. Take a look at the U.S. Navy SEALs. They have an idea, based on research and everything like that, of what makes a good BUDS candidate, which is basic underwater demolition / SEALs. That's SEALs basic training. And what they do, and the number one thing that's important to the U.S. Navy SEALs, is teamwork. That's their number one. Now, teamwork is important in law enforcement, but I don't think you should say that that's your number one, because a lot of officers either patrol on their own or they only work with like one other person. It's very rare that you're working with a huge team. But for the SEALs, that is the most important aspect, is can you get along and can you work with a team? So what do they do with that in mind? They go out to high schools, because they're looking for kids that are going to be 18 soon and able to enlist, because that's what time that they're able to enlist in the military. They're looking at kids who are about to be 18, about to graduate from high school, and that are going to apply that team dynamic to the U.S. Navy SEALs. So what do? You look at football teams, you look at basketball teams, baseball teams. They're looking at all these different type of teams where people have the dynamic that they need, have the criteria that they need, such as they're in good physical shape, they understand teamwork, they understand that how you win and succeed together as a team, which are the primary things that you need to do to make it through SEALs training. Let's jump over. Well, what's that mean to law enforcement? To law enforcement, that means that you need to follow a similar dynamic. What is your specific criteria in a police recruit? Okay, well, let's start at the legal requirement. They need to be 21. So that cuts out those 18-year-olds from high school. But you have a resource at your fingertips that you can use that you're just not utilizing. And that is your community colleges, for one. Those community colleges have criminal justice programs. You can look at 4-year programs as well. We'll jump to that here in a second. But you can look at those 4-year programs, but stick right now with your community colleges. What's that doing for you? I think the statistic is like less than 70% of all law enforcement have a college degree. That means associate or bachelor's, less than 70%. So you're already getting recruits and candidates, I should say candidates, that are beating 70% of those who are on the force right now. They're about to be 21, right? Because if you go through a 2-year program, you start college at 18, maybe 19, and it's 2 years, and they're graduating at, say, around 20, 21. They need to be 21. Well, by the time you put them through a police academy, they're 21. So you're covering that basic criteria that you need in that legal requirement of having a 21-year-old. Yes, they're young, but you can mold them. And how are you going to do that? You need to do what the SEALs are doing, what other good recruitment incentives are. I shouldn't say incentives. What other good recruitment tactics are being used? So go out, put together a recruitment team. And if you're chief of a department, this is something you need to utilize and offer overtime for, because you're going to have officers jump on this. And this needs to be your best officers, which means we need to take a look at your FTO program too, which once again, we're going to come back to that. But send your best officers for recruitment. Why? Because they're going to set the tempo. And when you go out and you're doing these recruitment initiatives, you got to do things that draw people into your agency. This is the long game. This isn't short game where you're just trying to steal officers that are already certified to. No, you get officers that are 20, graduating college with an associate's in criminal justice, which, by the way, if I didn't touch on that, that's where you're looking for. You already know these students have an interest in the criminal justice system. Utilize it. It's like a warm lead for any position that you need. They're already in the criminal justice field. They already are telling you that they have a passion, or that they're interested in a profession within the criminal justice field. So you're going to reach out to them. You're going to go to schools. You're going to do hiring events. But more than hiring events, you're going to go out there and you're going to offer your own events where they come out and they do ride-alongs, or they come out and they do events where you're working like I said, the SEALs do it. They do, fitness challenges and stuff like that, where we're like, hey, come out and train with the Navy SEALs. You're going to do the same thing. And what's this allowing you to do? This is allowing you to pre-screen any of your applicants and grab the cream of the crop. Same thing colleges do for football or any other sport, where they're like, hey, is this person going to be a professional athlete? They're sitting there, they're screening them all the way from high school, from college. And they're like, yes, we're going to take this person in the draft. This is our first round pick. You're doing the same exact thing. And it takes time to build that team. And I know you could be saying, well, we can build that team, and we have, but then they just leave. Well, there's a solution for that too. You're going to hand select these individuals from a chick stage, let's pretty much say, where like they're a baby chick, and you're going to grow them into a full-grown law enforcement officer. Well, that full-grown law enforcement officer starts in this baby stage, and it's a crawl, walk, run stage. So they're interested in law enforcement, they're in a criminal justice program, they're about to graduate, and you're mostly, you can go back further if you really have a good dynamic team going, but let's start with those getting ready to graduate with their associates. Okay, we bring them in, they've been through all our ride-alongs, we've assessed their personality. Yes, we think this person will be a good fit for our department. We think we can mold them into a great officer. Our best officers have kind of done pre-screenings on them. Okay, we're going to pay for them to go through the police academy. Well, you're paying for them to go through the police academy. Well, make them sign a contract. Make them give you at least 3 years. In 3 years, people start to feel real comfortable where they're at. They're either going to leave or they're going to stay. Statistically, they're either going to leave or they're going to stay. So you need to make it really beneficial for them to stay. And specifically, a little side note is something around that 3-year mark, they get a nice raise, they get a nice bonus, they get something that is going to help push that envelope for them to be like, you know what? I may have some qualms with the agency. No agency or department's perfect, but this agency, I really like it and I'm going to stay, and they just gave me a nice raise or something along those lines, and I'm just going to stay. So 3-year mark, make them sign a 3-year contract for going through the police academy. They sign a 3-year contract. If they break that 3-year contract, they have to pay back the costs of the academy, of course, and then give them something to show they're appreciated at that 3-year mark, and make sure they're good to go. By the way, set a good, solid probationary period, because the last thing you want to do is run into an issue where you thought someone was a good candidate, but they've turned out not to be so. And you don't want that on the force, because that's just like one bad apple ruins the bunch. You don't want that happening. So that's what you're going to look for. Looking at the 4-year degree individuals, you can go after them. And if you do, you're looking at 22, 23, 24-year-olds. Now, these individuals usually have something in mind, and they usually want something a little bit better than like an entry-level position. However, I think that mentality is starting to kind of curb itself a little bit, because individuals are realizing just because I go to college for 4 years doesn't mean I'm going to come out with a executive level position. But you can look at them, and that maybe right now is where you want to try to grab 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 if you can from that position, or from those local universities and colleges that have 4-year criminal justice programs. Remember, you're looking at criminal justice. You can also be looking at public safety too. If it's a public safety degree instead of a criminal justice degree, or even a criminology degree, those are the pipelines you're looking down, because they're already warm leads. The schools are doing the work for you. Now it's your job to close that deal. You got to sell your agency, and you got to sell your department's camaraderie and their teamwork, and why this is the department you want to work at. It helps when you have decent starting salaries. It helps when you have good benefit packages, because once again, law enforcement profession is not sexy in the media right now. So you're really going to have to explain to people, hey, by starting this at this point, while you're going through the academy, you're already making this point just to go through training. And then as soon as you graduate the academy, you're making, another $3,000 more on your salary. And then by the end of your first year, when you're done probation, you're making, an extra $3,000 more. And then at the end of your 3rd year, we're going to give you another $3,000. So in a 3-year time span, you're already getting a $9,000 pay raise, or something. You don't have to stick to that, but something similar to that specific application. So what are we looking at? You can go after you should be going after criminal justice, criminology, public safety students in your community college, your 2-year associate degrees, and then you're looking at your 4-year bachelor degrees, same pipelines, and you're going to try to get them to come over, and that's where you're going to recruit. Now, you need to go to these schools, and you need to set up booths, and you need to talk with administration and stuff like that. And you need to set up events. You need to go to these schools, and I'm not just talking a hiring event where you got a booth and you're sitting up there and you're saying how great. No, set up a pull-up station or a push-up station or something along those lines where, when these students compete or complete something, they get a challenge coin. Have simple order challenge coins for your department. Everyone loves them. And you're going to give these kids a challenge coin, and that's going to stick with them. They're going to remember that. It's just going to be something that they think, hey, this is a nice department, and they reached out to me, and it's going to get them motivated. I might have a job coming out of college. And everyone thinks about staying with a job for their first 3 years. Well, people think about staying with a job for 10 years when they first start, until they get into the job. And then you never know what you're getting into until you actually experience it, which is something these younger individuals, younger law enforcement, unfortunately, they learn, and sometimes it's not in the best aspect. So you have these recruitment initiatives in place, and you're going there, and you're maybe you're bringing them out to your department or your agency, and they're working out with your officers or whatever you do. But now, how are you going to keep them besides these little initiatives at the 1 year or the 3-year mark? You need to build a community in the department. I'm not talking about your community members, but you need to build a community in the department where people don't think, man, it must be better on the other side of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, right? So you need to build a community where people do not think that. And one way to do that is to weed out those bad apples. One bad apple spoils a bunch, just like I said. And the first thing that people deal with is their first line supervisors and their FTOs, so their field training officers. You need to make sure that you are selecting the best people. If someone's not going to be a good FTO, and you have an FTO position opening, and they're the only person eligible for that position, whatever your criteria is, don't make them an FTO until they prove to you that they can do it. If someone has a negative connotation about the department, the last thing you want them to do is be the face that the new cadets or new recruits or new candidates see when they enter the department. Hey, you're with me. Let me tell you about this place. Don't listen to anybody. Everyone around here stinks. They're, this, like, you should already be looking for another job. Like, if that's the first thing someone hears, first impressions are everything. That's where they're stuck. You're going to be so hard to get them out of there. So you need to remove those FTOs. So review your FTO program. If you need help with that, give me a call. But review your FTO program and get those bad officers out of the program. The next thing is your first line supervisors. If your first line supervisors are oh, I know everything, and they're not there supporting your officers, if they're up there just trying to climb the corporate ladder and they're not supporting those officers who are on the street and who are out there patrolling every single day, then you are just all wrong in every type of way. First line supervisors, yes, they've made it to a good point and they've proven themselves. However, they could be the thing that ruins a person's law enforcement profession, to the point where people are just leaving the law enforcement profession right now because they don't like their supervisor and they think if they do one mistake, their supervisor is just going to hang them out to dry. So you need to be very cognizant of who you're promoting and who you're assigning to these FTO programs. Make sure you're following simple guidelines. Set a recruitment policy in place. Write down a SOP or general order for recruitment policies when you're going to colleges or universities or whatever you're doing. You can build yourself the best department in the nation, whether it's a large department or a small department, it doesn't matter. You could have the best one in the nation that a community loves and respects and will do anything for, and that can help turn and shift the tide that we're having with the law enforcement profession right now. This isn't a short game, and if you think it is, you might as well turn off this video because I'm just talking to a wall at this point. You need to just really reflect on yourself, put together recruitment initiatives, send your best people out there, put your best people in place on your FTO program, and then try to put your best people in place on your first line supervisors. And then remember, people need to feel supported. If they're not feeling supported by upper management, they're gone. As soon as they hit that 3-year mark, they're just going to leave. It doesn't matter what you try to sell them. Research has already shown that money is like a salary is what will get you in the door, but people will not stay for a salary. It doesn't matter how much you try to offer them. I hope this helps. If you are a recruiting officer for a law enforcement department or a training officer for a law enforcement department, I hope this helps you. Put it to work, use it. If you're a law enforcement officer in general, I have free training for you below. I know budgets are tight right now. Departments can't send you to outside training. I have a free workshop, how to gain consistent search consent. Go through a review. It's going to revolutionize pretty much how you get consent almost every single time. And people are literally just going, oh yeah, you want to search something? Go right ahead. It's fantastic. Like I said, it'll completely change everything about how you gain consent and how you search a vehicle, a person, or property. Stay safe. I look forward to seeing you next time.